administrators, educators, coaches, and fans of the Missouri Valley Conference expect nothing but the best from their teams. And the Valley student athletes take pride in exceeding that expectation. On the field, on the court, on the track, and in the classroom. Celebrating academic and athletic excellence for more than 100 years. This is the Missouri Valley Conference. Don't miss the 2015 Missouri Valley Conference Women's Basketball Tournament, March 12th through 15th at Family Arena. Get your tickets and get to St. Charles now. Celebrate 25 years of Arch Madness. Don't miss the 2015 Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Tournament, March 5th through 8th at the Scott Trade Center. Get your tickets and get to St. Louis for Arch Madness.
The Shockers will go to the NCAA 34-0.
Placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you would like to ask a question during the conference, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, press the pound key. I will now turn the call over to Mike Kern. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Bonnie. Just a couple of conference items before we begin with our first coach. We do have Greg Lansing of Indiana State on the line with us, and he's first in our roster. 3 games tomorrow, no games today in the league. We have Evansville playing at Belmont. The Purple Laces have won 3 in a row. They are 6-1 overall. They're up to their best start since going 7-1 in 2008-2009 season. 2 games on ESPN's Family of Networks tomorrow. Seton Hall visits Wichita State, and Bradley is at Kansas State. The Wichita State game on ESPN2 at 6 o'clock Central. Bradley plays Kansas State at 7 o'clock Central. Collegiate Basketball News RPI report. The first edition was today. The league is 11th overall as a conference. 5 teams in the top 100. Wichita State at number 13 to lead the way. Northern Iowa is number 2 at 21. The Panthers are 8-0. Let's get started with Coach Lansing. Good morning, Greg.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good morning.
Morning.
Light week for most of the teams in the league, including Indiana State playing at Iona on Saturday. Talk about your week and preparations for Iona on Saturday.
Well, first and foremost, we got to get a lot better. We haven't played very well. and we got a long ways to go. We're just kind of struggling along. We're a little fragile right now, and we've been missing guys with different things, missing time, but collectively, we got to be a tougher team, a more competitive team to play against. We might have bit off a little bit more than we can chew with this schedule, but it's the way we like to do it. And we got a really good opponent this weekend on the road after a long travel day, after a week of finals. But it's just what we need, because we need to demand more from these guys and get a lot better.
Thank you, Greg. Let's get right to the questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Greg Lansing.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from Andrew Logue of the Des Moines Register.
Hi, Coach.
Andrew, how are you?
All right. There's a good chance when the polls come out today that you and I will be ranked, and that would give the Valley a second team. And I wanted to get your thoughts on how important or what are the benefits for the Valley to have somebody besides Wichita State or a second team in the rankings and kind of getting national attention?
Andy, I think any attention the league gets is good. I mean, we need more attention. We deserve more attention. I understand last year we lose Creighton, and everybody, Wichita runs the table. It's not like every one of their games is easy, and they'd probably be the first to tell you that. But there's some awfully good teams in the league. It's really good this year, and there's no question what Jake's doing with his squad there at Northern Iowa, and they got a tough schedule too. So look right down the road here at Evansville as well, what Marty's got going there. So this is a multi-bid league. It should be year in and year out, but there's no question it is this year.
Cool. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Again, to ask a question, press star 1. Our next question comes from Carson Tiggs of Waterloo Courier.
Hey, Coach, there was some potential floated last week about North Carolina coming to UNI for Marcus Page's senior year. I'm just wondering if you have any experience with kind of a big-time program like that, making a home trip to Indiana State.
Oh, it hasn't happened for a while. We've had my first time here. We had Indiana over here and Purdue, obviously with your state rivals. That's a big deal. But I really haven't. I understand. We all talk to no end about how difficult the schedule is. But if Jake could get that done and getting Carolina in there, I think Coach Williams would be crazy to want to go to Northern Iowa, because they're awfully good and tough anyway. But we all have to step up our scheduling, and again, we might have bit off more than we can chew this year, but that's really about it. It's been really hard for us to get the BCS level or the high major leagues to come to Terre Haute.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Again, for questions, press star 1.
Greg, it looks like that is it for you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah.
All right. Next coach to join us is Ben Jacobson of Northern Iowa. The Panthers off to their best Division I start at 8-0. Morning, Coach. Hello, Jake. While we wait to get connected with Coach Jacobson, the last time the league had two teams ranked in the top 25 during the regular season in the AP poll was January 28th of 2013. Wichita State and Creighton both ranked at that time. Northern Iowa's last ranking was in the final poll of the 2010 coaches poll. Panthers were ranked 13th in that poll after reaching the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. Northern Iowa's last ranking in the regular season poll was also in that season on February 22nd in the AP poll, ranked number 25. Coach Jacobson, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mike, you there?
Yep. Good morning, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. Doing fine.
Good. Congratulations on your quick start, 8-0. Certainly one of the best starts in school history, and certainly the best start in Division I history for the Panthers. Talk about your start, and then talk about your week this week.
We had a tight one at home on Saturday with George Mason. We were up 12 with just under 7 to go, and they made some good plays, and we made some not so good plays, and so we ended up in overtime, and a little fortunate to get that one taken care of. But overall, Mike, I tell you, our defense is much improved over the course of the last 6 to 8 weeks here, is from the beginning of practice until now. Doing a much better job with just some rotations and being in help situations. Our rebounding has been good. It needs to get better, but it's been good. It's up a level from where it was last year, but still need to do some things better in terms of rebounding. And then offensively, we've been okay. We've shot a pretty good percentage, but I think in large part because our guys have been unselfish and shared the ball. We're not clicking on all cylinders, if you will, at this point with our offense. So hopefully that'll kick into gear a little bit for us. But I like what the guys have done at the defensive end.
Thanks, Jay. What can you tell us about Denver, your next opponent, and then later on this week you're playing VCU, of course. But talk about Denver, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Yeah,
Denver was here 2 years ago in the bracket buster game and got us on our home floor. It's a different game. We played Richmond about a week and a half ago, and so similar type systems that match up or switching man to man at the defensive end of the floor. Offensively, and Denver's much more so the true Princeton than what Richmond is. Richmond's got some of those. Some of the tendencies or some of that same philosophy in terms of running that Princeton offense, but Denver really, I would say it's almost that true Princeton system with all the back cuts, and they've got a bunch of guys right now that can make threes. They've got guys at all 5 positions in the starting lineup that make threes for them, and so when you're working hard to defend back cuts and keep the ball in front of you, as you're doing that, they're pinning you in and shooting threes. So they've got a good team. And then, like I said, at our place 2 years ago, they beat us. So going to be an important one for us.
Thanks, Jake. Let's get to the questions now for you. Questions for Coach Ben Jacobson.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Andrew Logue of the Des Moines Register.
Hey, Coach. Wanted to kind of follow up a little about what you said about scheduling, and I know you tried to build a schedule that's going to help you with the resume, but do you also, when finding a schedule, look for different styles and types of teams, or is it more, how do you want your guys to experience different types of things? How do you go through scheduling outside of building a resume?
Well, a lot of times, Andrew, that gets outside of your control a little bit because you're working so hard to get quality games. And Denver was a bracket buster game, so that one was scheduled for us. The Richmond game that we got came really late. We were still looking for a high quality home opponent, and Richmond was still in need of, I think more than one game. So that one came toward the end of August or maybe even early September by the time we got that one. And both of those teams happened to be a totally different system. And the VCU game was also a bracket buster game initially, and we had played both of those. And then this year we made the decision to take a single game at their place because of the quality of their program. And obviously they're a team that's going to be in the top 30, and it was the same with Richmond. So sometimes that part of it's out of your control. We're not necessarily looking for, hey, we got to go find a team that's going to play zone or going to press or going to play different. That's really secondary to putting together that schedule.
Okay. Do you like the idea though of challenging kids mentally? In December at a time when things can get routine, is it kind of nice to be able to say, well, this is a different team, and you got to think your way through maybe not being such a routine?
Yeah, I know it's good for your players, and I know it's good for our team to have to play against different systems and play against his own defense, play against the team that's going to press like VCU does, have to guard the different systems, whether it be Richmond or Denver with that Princeton system. So there's no question that it's good for your team as you're building and working to get yourself ready for conference play. I think all of that helps as you go through it.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Yep, thanks.
Our next question comes from Paul Swellentrop of the Wichita Eagle.
Ben, I wanted to ask about Marvin Singleton. I think he really started to come on for you late last year and started some games, and his role apparently is getting bigger and bigger. How do you describe his progress? It's been great for our program, Paul, and it's been obviously fun to see Marvin because he's a guy who really had to wait his turn. You know, initially, Paul, he was a guy that we were playing at the small forward, and that's the position that he wanted to play. And he was behind some guys, and we made the decision at some point, I think it was, maybe middle of December last year, to play him at the power forward. It was against VCU in that game, and he really helped us in that one, and kind of went back and forth until we got a little later in the year, and he moved into the starting lineup and played very well for us down the stretch. We won 5 out of 6 with him in the starting lineup, and now this year he's much better than he was a year ago. He's improved tremendously, and the biggest change in him, Paul, is his conditioning. He's completely changed his body and his conditioning, and that's helped him be much more effective for us. But I'm really happy and really proud of him that he's stuck with it and waited his turn, and now it's paying off for our team.
So why did he want to play small forward, and how did you work that move to the 4 spot?
Well, it's a position that he felt that he was going to be best at. He wanted to be more of a ball handling type guard as opposed to a guy who's going to play inside. And obviously, and I understood the reasons why, Paul. He's undersized to be a power forward. He's right at 6'4", maybe a little bit more than that. So he had an opportunity to be a bigger guard, a bigger small forward, and had that been his best position, he could have been pretty effective there. But like I said, in playing that position, he found himself behind too many guys, and so he wasn't in the rotation. And sometimes things fall the right way for you. And that VCU game, because of the lineup they play and how they play, we felt like we needed an undersized 4, if you will, playing in that game to defend VCU. And it kind of opened, I think, Marvin's eyes to the fact that he can really help us as an undersized 4. And there's still some things from handling the ball a little bit and doing some of the guard things that you can do there. But most importantly, he could help our team at that position where he was behind a bunch of guys at the small forward spot.
Thank you.
Yep.
For questions, press star 1.
Jake, that's your last question. Thank you for your time this morning.
Yep, thanks, Mike.
All right, we'll see you.
Yep.
Drake is right in the middle of practice. Coach Giacoletti was going to step out and call us. We'll hold for just a moment and see if he does do that. We're kind of at his mercy with him on the practice floor. But we do have Coach Paul Lusk with us, and we might jump ahead to Coach Lusk. A couple of conference notes to share before we have Paul with us. Northern Iowa is one of the 11 teams left. As Jake mentioned, they beat George Mason in overtime. It's their second overtime win of the year. Seton Hall also unbeaten. They're 7-0. They play at Wichita State tomorrow night. The Shockers 5-1. Wichita State's only loss at number 25 Utah in a 1-point overtime decision. Loyola, meanwhile, winning on the road this year. The Loyola is 3-1 on the road after beating UIC this weekend. Ramblers 5-2 overall, but the 3 wins on the road are tied for second nationally behind only Tennessee Martin's 4 wins. Let's go ahead and take Coach Paul Lusk at this point, Missouri State's head coach, coming back from a very darkened Tulsa, maybe center. Morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike.
A little frustrating not be able to get that game in against Oral Roberts yesterday. Any further progress on the reschedule?
I haven't heard a thing yet. It was obviously a unique situation. No one's at fault. They just had a power outage, and it just got to the point to where we had to at least set a time, and it got to 4 o'clock, and then they were still talking where it could be another couple hours, and we just decided to call the game.
Thank you, Coach. Let's talk about your game against Little Rock, a win at home against Arkansas Little Rock on the 4th, and then you had a game this week at Southeast Missouri State in finals week. Talk about both of those 2 things, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Yeah, we found a way to get it done against Little Rock. It was a difficult game for us. We were down in the second half, but our guys stuck with it and found a way to win. And that's what you have to do. We have to continue to get better. But I thought it was a positive game for us. And then, as you said, we went to Oral Roberts. Our next three are on the road. The Oral Roberts game was canceled. We're at SEMO Saturday, and then at Tulsa the following game.
Thank you, Paul. Let's get to the questions now for you from the media. Questions for Coach Paul Lusk.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's star 1 for questions. Our first question comes from Scott Marion of the Edwardsville Intelligencer.
I'm doing a story about Sean Roundtree. Could you talk a little bit about what attracted you him as a player when you recruited him and what your expectations are for him for this season?
Well, we feel like he's got the total package. Great young man, on and off the floor, comes from a great family, comes from a winning program. He's a winner, and he's won his whole career. He's done some good things for us so far. There's always an adjustment for a young freshman, especially at that point guard spot. But we really like Sean, and we think he's going to be a very, very good player for us.
And I know one of the things you had mentioned, I thought the media guy mentioned, was that his just decision making on the floor and a great understanding of the game.
He does, and you know the toughest spot to come in and play generally is that point guard spot for an incoming player on this level. And but he's a good facilitator. He's a worker. He just really works, and he hasn't shot the ball well early in the season, but I think that's just a matter of getting in rhythm, getting comfortable, and becoming more confident. He's in the gym every day shooting, but you're right. He makes very good decisions. He's a very good student. He has a lot of leadership abilities. We think he's going to be a very good player for us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Paul, with the injuries that you've had, I know you have a lot of guys back, but has it been hard for you to figure out exactly what you have in these guys? And
it has been. You know, Marcus has been in and out, and hopefully we have no more setbacks there. We need to get him some practice time, though. Ron Mavica, I think that has affected our team just from the standpoint he's that big three that really had a very good preseason for us and earned that spot. And he's that next guy that can go make a play for us. But that's part of it. Injuries are part of it. We're playing a lot of new guys, really five new guys, 2 junior college players and 3 high school kids are playing. And we've struggled sometimes at the 4 and the 5 spot. There's no doubt that Jamar Gully was our leading scorer and leading rebounder last year at that 4 spot. That's taken some time, but I like my guys. I think it'll just take us some time, but I think they continue to work and they're trying to get better, and I see a lot of areas that we can improve in.
What's the number one, I guess, area you want to see them improve at right now?
Well, I think it's just defensively we haven't been very good in some of the games that we've needed to. I thought we guarded Eastern Illinois okay. It seems like every other game there's something else that springs a leak, but I think a lot of it at times when you have 3 or 4 new guys on the floor is just know-how and understanding scouting reports and being in those game situations. We have to get better in those areas. We have to guard people better. We have found some rhythm offensively lately. We have fouled entirely too much. Anytime Cam Boone gets into foul trouble, our junior college post player, he's been very good, but he gets in foul trouble, that really affects us. We just have to get better in those areas, keeping the ball in front of us, not giving up easy ones, and then playing without fouling.
Do you anticipate getting some practice time this week, even with finals?
We're gonna just with the 10-day road trip to Alaska. the long travel last week to get back, the 24 hours of travel, and then to have this thing happen over at Oral Roberts. It's just an inconvenience. As I said, no one's at fault, but we're giving them today off. We got back last night, I think, at about 8 or 9 o'clock, and we're giving them today off, and then we're going to regroup and see where we're at. But we would like to get some practice time in before the SEMO game.
Thanks.
You bet.
And for questions, press star 1.
Coach, that's it. Thank you for your time this morning, Paul.
Hey, thanks, guys.
All right, bye-bye. I'm going to reach out to Coach Barry Hinson at this point. We'll still try to get a hold of Coach Giacoletti. Be on momentarily. While we wait for Coach Hinson to join us, Southern Illinois has won 4 straight games. They did win 4 straight last year from January 29th to February 8th. But before that, they had not won 4 in a row since the 2009-10 season. Salukis are at Southeast Missouri State Wednesday evening, and then a home game against Chicago State on Sunday. And while we're trying to get a hold of Coach Hinson, we do have Coach Giacoletti stepping out of practice and joining us. Good morning, Ray.
It's Ray.
Hey, thanks for stepping out of practice and joining us on the conference call this morning. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Great. Well, let's talk about your week at Green Bay. Very good Green Bay team. They're actually rated number 1 in the RPI as of this morning, and then Jackson State next Monday at your place. Talk about the game on Saturday, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
This past Saturday game, the North Dakota game?
No, let's look at the Green Bay.
Oh, look at it, yeah. Right now, to be quite honest with you, we need to worry about ourselves right now instead of looking ahead to the opponent. Obviously, Green Bay's a very good team. Just got done Saturday beating Miami of Florida. We got beaten a heartbreaker here Saturday where we lead for 39 minutes and can't finish it. And so we need to try to take care of ourselves at the little pieces of the game to help. I don't think you get ready for an opponent until you get yourself completely correct and taken care of, and that's what our focus is today.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get to the questions for you. Questions for Coach Ray Giacoletti.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's star 1 for questions. Our first question comes from Andrew Logue of the Des Moines Register.
Hey, Coach. Wanted to ask you about Jacob Enville. Looks like he's been fairly efficient, about 6 points, 6 rebounds, and averaging 23 minutes a game. How is his progress, and what's he doing, or can he do more to keep himself on the floor?
It's a great point. sometimes when you go from being just a 20-minute, he played 20 minutes a night last year, role guy where you split the position 50-50, it's a little bit bigger job to take the job completely over. And I think we're kind of right in the middle of trying to help him extend those minutes, from 20 minutes to, boy, it'd be great to get him up to 28 or 29 and stay with what he's doing, engage defensively, rebound the basketball, and be a presence in the middle. And I think that's probably the biggest issue right now is trying to expand those minutes from 20 to 28 and be able to keep a focus that he has in those shorter stints. And so, but it's funny, we just got done talking about it this morning, and he'll continue, and our staff will continue to work with him to try to find that because we really need it terribly from him.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
Again, for questions, press *1.
Ray, really appreciate you stepping out of practice and joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Let's get next to Coach Barry Hinson of Southern Illinois. As mentioned, SIU winners of 4 straight games. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mike.
Let's talk about your week this week, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you. Let's talk about your next game.
Well, we play, I don't know if you call it a river rivalry or what, but we're going to go across the river here, 45 minutes away, and start a new rivalry with SEMO. This has been a brainstorm of the 2 athletic directors together, and going to go over and play against my good friend Dickie Nutt. Dickie and I went to school together at Oklahoma State, so it's a big week for both of us.
Thank you, Barry. Let's get to the questions now for Coach Barry Hinson. Questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, press *1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's *1 for questions. Our first question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Barry, Bradley's an excellent shooter, and he's a really good free throw shooter. What kind of problems does he present defensively for you?
Well, I think his size and his length gives us lots of problems because we don't really have anybody on our perimeter now. Everybody playing on our perimeter are guards, and Chirikas is a forward, and we don't really have any forwards that we play on the perimeter defensively. So just his size and length already put us at a liability, and that's certainly one of our biggest concerns because he's such a good offensive player, and his numbers are phenomenal.
Is this something that Sean can play out there?
Oh, because they're so big on the interior, we can't afford to put Sean on Chirikas on the perimeter. So that's why they're pretty good. And you're talking about Bradley's played 8 games now, and he's only missed 2 free throws. And a kid that can shoot the 3, that can put it on the floor. We knew he was a good offensive player, but his numbers are really impressive.
And Barry, how hard is it to evaluate those guys when they're playing against junior colleges? In Austin's case, when you're evaluating these 5th-year guys, or
I think one of the things that you do is you just have to really focus in on the individual himself. And most of the guys, all the guys in this league for sure, and most of the guys out there coaching have been in it long enough to know how they can evaluate a guy based on what he does just by himself. Now, if it's a big guy going against little guys all the time, then maybe that gives you some issues. But in Austin's case, he had a chance to go against bigger opponents when we watched him play, and certainly we knew that he could really score the basketball. And it's hard to find big guys, especially 6, that can score like Austin can. And this is one. Both our red shirts this year. We're really excited about both our red shirts. We feel like we've redshirted 2 kids that could have helped us this year, but will definitely help us much more in the future.
Our next question comes from Paul Solentrop of the Wichita Eagle.
Hello, Barry. Jordan Caroline, it seems like he's adjusting pretty quickly as a freshman. Tell me a little bit about what he's giving you.
Well, Paul, he's a lot like his father. I mean, he's he looks like a linebacker for one thing, and he's got girth, he's got quickness. I mean, his issues that he's battling right now are typical freshman issues. The ability to focus for a length of time, adjusting to size on the interior, but he is as athletic. And you got to remember, he's got a high ankle sprain. He's playing on one leg, so and there's nothing we can do about it. So he's going to have this injury. Our trainer said for up to 4 months. So I mean, he's going to have it all season. And the kid is our second most athletic player on one leg right now, behind Anthony Bean.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Carson Tigas of the Waterloo Courier.
Hey, Coach, there's some potential that North Carolina will be coming to UNI next year to get Marcus Page a game near home. I'm just wondering, maybe at Missouri State, if you had any experience with that, a big-time program doing one of those home visits for one of their players.
No, none experience at all. Well, that's great. That's great. That's awesome. Ben must have pictures of Coach Williams doing something bad, because I've never heard of that in my life. So that's great. Fantastic. That's great for our league. That's great for Northern Iowa. And so, man, that's, the only thing that we had at Missouri State that was close to that is that we had to move a football date, and we were able to get Auburn to come back in and play in our building. And I didn't get a chance to see that. I was relieved of my duties before that opportunity came about.
Okay, thanks a lot, Coach.
Coach Jensen, thank you for your time this morning. Keep them rolling. Good luck this week.
Okay, guys.
Thanks,
Good luck to all our guys. All right, see you.
Coach Marty Simmons of Evansville joins us now. The Purple Aces are at 6-1 and looking to go 7-1 against Belmont tomorrow. A tough opponent in Nashville. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Congratulations on your quick start. Your only blemish, if you can call it a blemish, is a 2-point loss to the nation's #1 RPI team in Green Bay. So a great start for the Aces.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited about that. We've certainly got a lot of room for improvement, but felt like the other night against IUPUI played maybe our best half of basketball in the first half. Guys played really hard, played really well together, and unfortunately in the second half we just didn't sustain our effort and concentration like you have to be successful, and we're certainly going to be tested with that at Belmont.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get to the questions now for you. Questions for Coach Marty Simmons.
To ask Coach a question, press *1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's *1 for questions. Our first question comes from Carson Tiggs of the Waterloo Courier.
Hey, Marty. There's some potential that North Carolina will come to UNI with to get Marcus Page a game near his hometown. I know that the Tar Heels came and Tyler Zeller came to you guys a couple years ago. Just kind of how'd all that get put together?
That you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Coach August was aggressive. We just kind of were sitting here talking one day, trying to figure out maybe a way, and I think Coach Williams has had a history, even when he was at Kansas, of trying to do that, and we figured they would either try to come here or Indiana State, and we were fortunate. We got 3 losses out of the deal, but it was certainly neat, to play against one of the best programs in the country.
Yeah, it was a 2-for-1. Was that pretty much the only option you had there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot, Marty.
Yep.
Again, for questions, press *1.
Coach, the way you're scheduled, you've got a road game at Belmont, and then you close with 5 straight at home. Opening with Northern Iowa on the 1st of January in conference play. But talk about your schedule and the thoughts of putting together one that included a bunch of home games this year for your ball club.
Yeah, it's just, I'm sure everybody's different. We have an allotment of games, home games that we need to play, in our facility here, so it just kind of worked out that way, as it has in previous seasons. But, we felt like, our ability to go over to Miami, a program that we have a lot of respect for, and play pretty well and get a win, and then playing down in Naples against three pretty darn good teams. And then now our opportunity to go to Belmont, and then you look at Murray State year in and year out. I think they've got some kind of a record for consecutive 20-win seasons. I mean, they've got an outstanding program, and then Ohio University, a program that put it on us pretty good over there last year and has had a lot of success. So we feel like we're going to be tested, and it prepares us well for the conference.
Thank you, Marty. The road games are big ones, so good luck at Belmont tomorrow night.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Porter Moser of Loyola talking about road wins. The Ramblers have 3 of them. Porter Moser is on the line with us. Good morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Congratulations on your quick start. Let's get a comment on your games this week, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
No, we were obviously the rivalry game against UIC, just the inter-city rivalry to win on the road. That's always good, and just to continue to get confidence to win on the road. Like you said, it was 3 straight on the road. We had a tough home loss against Tulane where we just didn't rebound the ball. It's just been our Achilles heel. We know it, and just been pounded on the glass. Even yesterday or Saturday against UIC, just giving up 20-some offensive rebounds. It's just been our Achilles heel, but hopefully we can continue to get better at that. And we got finals this week. Our guys are in finals. At Loyola, it goes over a 2-week span, so we go through Saturday into next week with finals. So our next game is Saturday against Jackson State at home.
And the decision to have Milt play through his injury has so far looked pretty good. He's playing at a very high level for you.
Yeah, we sat him for 6 weeks and rehabbed it, and he's doing fine. He hasn't complained at all, and he's letting the game come to him, and I'm really pleased with. He's actually playing point guard because Jeff White had the surgery, and Jeff's still not back full swing, 100%, but he is playing. But Milt playing the point is he's really done a great job with that.
Thank you, Porter. Let's get to the questions now for you from the media. Questions for Coach Porter Moser.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, star 1 for questions.
Porter, let's talk about contributions from folks who didn't play a lot of minutes last year for you or didn't play any minutes for you last year. Talk about the new guys and their contributions to your ball club.
Earl Peterson's been a real spark off the bench. Junior college transfer from Coffeyville. He's given us some more depth at guard, high energy. He's more athletic than the kids that we've had. And then Dante Ingram, a Chicago Public League player from Simeon, also gives us some more athletic ability, has given us a spark off the bench. And those 2 guys have really been the most consistent newcomers we've had. But it gives you 2 guys off the bench that we just didn't have any depth last year.
Thanks, Porter. Bonnie, one more cue for questions for the coach.
For questions, press star 1 on your telephone keypad.
Porter, thank you for your time. Good luck against Jackson State and then your tournament out in Vegas, and then we'll talk to you after the new year.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. It's a couple minutes ahead of our next coach's scheduled time allotment. It's Gino Ford of Bradley will be joining us momentarily. We'll have the coach on in just a second. Braves just have a single game this week. They play at Kansas State on ESPN3 tomorrow night. And they're off for 9 days before playing at home against Eureka College and off to the South Point Holiday Hoops Classic in Vegas afterward. Last week, Warren Jones of Bradley scored 33 points against Central Michigan, handing Central Michigan its first loss of the year. The Braves, one of two teams nationally to have two players have reached 33 points or more in a year. Quinnipiac is the other. And we are now joined by Coach Gino Ford of Bradley. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Let's talk about your game at Kansas State tomorrow night. It's a tough opponent and a tough place to play. I've been to Manhattan. It's a very difficult place to win a ball game. Talk about Kansas State for us, and certainly a homecoming on many levels for a lot of familiar faces in that game.
Yeah, be a big challenge for us. Kansas State's, they got a good team. They're coming off a tough 1-point loss at Tennessee, so they'll be ramped up and ready to play. And because we're on a long road trip, we came in from Memphis yesterday, so we're going to end up getting 3 days out here, and there won't be anybody confusing this for Manhattan, New York. I mean, it's a nice city, but it's a long 3 days is a long time out here. So hopefully we can use it as some good practice and preparation stuff moving forward.
Thanks, Coach. And a big layoff after your game tomorrow night, finals in Peoria, and then off to your Holiday Hoops Classic in Vegas tournament. Opportunity to play a team that's rated number 1 right now in the RPI in Green Bay in your second game there. But let's focus on Kansas State, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Well, we kind of injury-wise, I think the time will be welcomed. We'll have our point guard Tremik Sellerland back for the Vegas trip, which we're excited about. He's finally started practicing and went through his second practice yesterday. Still got obviously a lot of rust from being out for 6 weeks, but we know we feel pretty confident he's going to solve some of our point guard issues with turnovers, because we're averaging about 18 turnovers a game right now. But the Kansas State game's going to be tough. They're big and physical inside. They're really, really strong. And so that's a concern, because when we've had success, it's been because of being able to out-rebound teams. And this will be a tough opponent for us to out-rebound, but we need to find a way to do it in their building. And anxious to see how we'll respond. We were down 9 with 10 minutes to go, and we just unraveled the other night down the stretch. It was our first true road game, so now we've been through it. Hopefully we'll have learned some lessons to be a little tougher with the ball and traffic in this game.
Thank you, Gino. Let's get to the questions now for you from the media. Questions for Coach Gino Ford.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, for questions, press star 1. Our first question comes from Carson Tiggs of the Waterloo Courier.
Hey, Coach. I saw some of your comments about playing on campus last week. I'm just wondering if there's, if any, been any reaction to that here over the past few days.
Well, yeah, there has been, and to be honest, I would say most of it, if you were to grade it out totally, it was neutral to slightly positive. I think our fans understand that. Here's the bottom line: we were second in the league in attendance last year. We have spent a lot of time as a community discussing attendances. Our numbers aren't as good as what they were 10 years ago, but that's a college basketball landscape issue. That's not a Peoria, Illinois issue, in spite of the fact that we remained second in the league in attendance a year ago. The difference for us in venues, the on-campus facility is just so much louder and more lively. And I think when you go around, and cover games on the road, which, a lot of media get to do and coaches and players get to experience, but oftentimes fans aren't able to be part of that. And they only see the home atmosphere. And there is a significant difference in noise levels and electricity in the building on campus versus downtown. And in a lot of ways, the on-campus is better. So, that was why I said it wasn't a knock on downtown, and they've been good to us. But, I certainly stand by what I said. It wasn't just my opinion. I mean, that's an opinion that would be shared by our players. So, I was just kind of the spokesperson for that and responding to a question. But, I don't know. It's not something we can, do at this moment. But I think it's something that, warrants some discussion, by our administration and board of trustees and people that are decision makers to see if that's, a good direction for us to move in or not.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep.
Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, that's it. We'll let you get back to the city of Manhattan, and we'll talk to you next time after the first of the year.
Okay, thanks, guys. See you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Dan Muller of Illinois State is with us. The Redbirds coming off of a win against UAB on the road in Birmingham. Morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good. Well, let's talk about your next game. It's at DePaul, and trip to Chicago, another road game. Certainly winning on the road's a big deal, and it's a tough deal in college basketball. Talk about your game against DePaul this week.
Yeah, we have a week off of finals. Our guys are in finals starting today, so our game's not until Sunday. DePaul's playing very well. We had a good road win yesterday at UAB, our first road game of the season, and it's going to be a tough matchup. DePaul forces a lot of turnovers. They're shooting it well. They've got great depth, balance, scoring. So it's going to be a tough game on Sunday. But we got the day off, tomorrow off for our players, focusing on finals, so we'll get back at it Wednesday, Thursday.
Let's get to the questions now for you from the media. Questions for Coach Dan Muller.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from Paul Swellentrop of the Wichita Eagle.
Hello, Dan. I'm going to see Seton Hall tomorrow night at Wichita State, and you played them. Give me a little description of their guards. They seem to be really good. Gibbs and Isaiah Whitehead. What kind of players are they?
Yeah, hey, Paul. They were, Gibbs had a career high against us. He went, if I remember right, maybe 8 for 9 for 3, and he probably hit 5 shots outside of 25 feet against us. That was really the reason they got us down 20 early. They're good. They were actually better in person for me than they were on tape. They're very athletic. They're young, but they're freshmen. Play with great maturity and physicality, and they're very athletic. They can come at you with different ways. But to me, their key, honestly, is their 2 older guards. Cena and Gibbs, in my opinion, control the emotional part of the game and help us freshmen a lot.
Thank you.
You got it. Good luck.
Again, for questions, press star 1. Our next question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Dan, I'm doing something on prep school kids. Deontay Hawkins, he's 6'8", 220, but, certainly when you recruited him, how did you kind of evaluate his competition and how he in the prep school environment?
Yeah, Todd, and we have a couple. Kyle McIntosh also is a 50-year school. Those guys, when you recruit guys, you look at their ages, and if you want, you can make yourself think both ways are positive, whether the kid's younger or older. Because if you look at a young kid, you think, well, he's young, he's got a long way to go. You look at an older kid, you go, well, he's going to be more mature, more ready to play. Prep school is a place with a lot of talent. They're usually playing against better competition, and their bodies mature more. So across the country at all levels, prep school kids are a huge part of college basketball, and we certainly recruit them hard.
Have you been right when you guessed, okay, this got to be better when he's older, or if he's younger, he's got more upside? Have you been, has it been long enough? Have you been able to see if that's a good guess, or it's just different for every kid?
It's a little different, to be honest. It still comes down to, once you get them, who they are. Do they work hard enough? Are they coachable? Are they tough enough? But if you need help early, you got a better chance with the kid that's older, and that's usually the way it is. When you get a younger kid who's not a prep school kid, usually, obviously, but a kid who doesn't turn 18 until he gets to college, you look at their development and what they can be. Nothing in recruiting is exact science, but prep school kids, because they're a year older, the bodies are more mature, and again, they play against better competition. A lot of times, are more ready to come in and contribute right away.
How did you early on this year?
You broke up on me for a second. Can you repeat that?
How was Deontay Hawkins? Impressed you and McIntosh?
Yeah, Deontay, he's been good, and he's nowhere near where he's going to be, I think, at some point this year. His shooting percentages aren't great. He's one of our leading rebounders. He's had a couple kind of breakout, quote-unquote, games. Been a pretty consistent player, but just the speed of the game and the physicality, he's still getting used to it. Mikal McIntosh had his first game of any significance yesterday at 18 points. He had 12 points in our first 6 games. So hopefully he's coming along. But physically, those guys are pretty mature.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That was your final question. Thank you for your time this morning. Good luck a week, I guess, on Sunday against DePaul. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Greg Marshall of Wichita State is with us. The Shocker sitting at 5-1 and playing at Seton Hall at home tomorrow night on ESPN2. Morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Talk about Seton Hall. They are unbeaten. They lost a close one to Illinois State in the Paradise Jam. And what can you tell us about your game tomorrow night? And then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, they're unbeaten, and they've brought in some good players. Whitehead's a good player. Gibbs can really shoot it. They're very athletic, very aggressive, well coached. We'll have our hands full.
Thank you, Greg. Let's get to the questions now for you from the media. Questions for Coach Greg Marshall.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's star 1 for questions. Our first question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Greg, I'm doing a story on recruiting prep school kids. You have 2 from Sunrise Academy in Kansas, Brown and Nerger. Could you tell me just when you watch them play, is it easier to kind of project them because they're playing against competition generally?
Yeah, they play probably a little better schedule than the regular high school kid that you would see, but that varies as well, depending on where they're playing high school basketball. So, they get a year to mature and play against those same guys that have had that extra year to mature. So it is a little bit easier to project them because you see them a little bit better competition.
Is that just as competitive as recruiting the top 100 players, in your area, or is it more competitive for prep school kids across the nation when you're?
I wouldn't say more or less. I mean, they're all getting recruited pretty hard.
Thanks.
Again, for questions, press star 1. Our next question comes from Paul Swellentrop of the Wichita Eagle.
Hey, Greg, how would you describe Isaiah Whitehead, his style of play?
He's a guy that likes to get the ball and drive downhill. He likes to goes right at the basket. He can block shots. He can shoot it, as he proved last game. He's just a very good wing scorer, wing athlete.
Thank you.
Coach, that was the final question for you. Thank you for your time, and good luck against Seton Hall tomorrow night.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. This does wrap up our weekly call. We thank you for your participation. Look forward to seeing you some on the road and hear from you after the first of the year when conference play begins.
Celebrate 25 years of Arch Madness. Don't miss the 2015 Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Tournament, March 5th through 8th at the Scott Trade Center. Get your tickets and get to St. Louis for Arch Madness.
The Shockers will go to the NCAA 34-0.
Don't miss the 2015 Missouri Valley Conference Women's Basketball Tournament, March 12th through 15th at Family Arena. Get your tickets and get to St. Charles now.